This video will introduce you to how to set up the QuoteWerks integration to ConnectWise. The integration is included free with the Corporate Edition of QuoteWerks. The QuoteWerks Development team created this ConnectWise integration to streamline and automate the sales process. You do not need to set up mappings for your items each time you want to send them over to ConnectWise. The integration is set up one time so that the QuoteWerks items flow seamlessly into the ConnectWise Opportunity and new items are created with the correct types, classes, categories, and more. The person setting up the integration should be familiar with how products should be created in ConnectWise. I will be using QuoteWerks version 5.2 Build 8 and ConnectWise 2017.5. If you are using a newer version of QuoteWerks, you will probably have more setup options as we increase our integration with ConnectWise based on feedback from the community. To set up the integration with ConnectWise, we'll go to the Contacts menu and Set up Contact Manager. This is where you'll enter in your ConnectWise server URL and your ConnectWise company name or ID. And what we'll do is click on the Test button to test the communication with your ConnectWise instance. If it's successful, it'll come back with the ConnectWise version. QuoteWerks takes advantage of many integration points within ConnectWise, using ConnectWise published REST APIs. In order for QuoteWerks to utilize the ConnectWise APIs, you must enable SSL in ConnectWise, and you will need to create or use existing REST API credentials. It is recommended to have a separate API key for each application that you have that integrates with ConnectWise. We have created a separate video that walks you through creating a new API member and how to obtain your public and private key. Each QuoteWerks user will need to enter their ConnectWise username into QuoteWerks under the Tools My Preferences menu. For the QuoteWerks administrator setting up the integration, we've made it easy for you to enter in your credentials. These settings will only be used for the currently logged in user and will not be applied to any other QuoteWerks user. And you can override these settings by clicking on the checkbox here, putting in your ConnectWise username, testing it, and clicking on Save. Now that our ConnectWise URL, API credentials, and ConnectWise user credentials have been entered into QuoteWerks and tested, we can truly start setting up the integration. Let's start with the data link. The data link enables you to bring in contact and company fields into the QuoteWerks document other than the standard contact information like address and phone number when a contact is retrieved from ConnectWise. For our example today, let's bring in both the ConnectWise company identifier and the sales tax rate. So what we'll do is click on the New button here, select when retrieving the sold to, and then you'll see that we have a lot of fields for both the company and contact. In this case, we're going with the company identifier, and we're going to bring that into custom text 01 and click on OK. And then let's bring in the tax rate from ConnectWise. And scroll down for tax rate. Make sure you select tax rate here. And we're going to bring that into the QuoteWerks local tax rate right there. Now, the sales tax will be retrieved from the location selected when retrieving the contact from ConnectWise. If no tax information is set up for that specific location in ConnectWise, we will retrieve the tax rate from the main company record. So let's go ahead and click on OK, and OK again, and OK one last time. So now that we've set that up, let's see the data link in action. So the first thing we're going to do is take a look at the custom tab. You'll see that I have nothing in custom text 01, and my local tax rate is at 8%. So let's go ahead and bring in our contact here. We'll bring in Thor from Thor's Hammers. We'll bring him into the sold to because that's what our data link is set up for. Perfect. And if we go over to our custom tab, we've got our identifier there. And then if we go over the sale info, you'll notice that our tax rate is set at 7.5%. So what we can do now is go over to ConnectWise to see why that was. And in this case, I didn't have any specific site set up, so it's bringing from the company for Thor's Hammers. Our tax rate is set up as state, so if we look at state here, it's adding up the state tax rate plus the county rate, giving us 7.5%. Now that our data link is configured, Let's set up the heart of the integration. So what we're going to do is go back to the Contacts Setup Contact Manager menu, and this time we're going to select ConnectWise Setup. We've divided the ConnectWise integration into manageable sections. We'll go ahead and start on the Settings tab here under Integration Mode. If you use ConnectWise for standard CRM functionality, you will want to set the integration mode to Primary CRM. But if you use another CRM like Salesforce.com, Microsoft Dynamics CRM, or any of the other 15 contact managers or PSAs that QuoteWerks integrates with, select Not Primary CRM. This enables you to use your contact manager for managing the pipeline with QuoteWerks, and when the quote becomes an order, you can have QuoteWerks create the one opportunity, products, agreements, sales orders, and service tickets in ConnectWise. QuoteWerks can create purchase orders in your accounting solution and even in ConnectWise if you have the ConnectWise purchasing module. If you do not have the ConnectWise purchasing module, select QuickBooks, Peachtree, or none. We have a separate video that provides an overview of the QuoteWerks purchasing and procurement functionality. I'm going to go ahead and select ConnectWise. Next is our notifications section. On the QuoteWerks dashboard, you can see all ConnectWise opportunities that need a quote created. This is determined by the status of the ConnectWise opportunity, which is set up here. As you can see, you can have up to 3 statuses in ConnectWise that determine whether they appear on the QuoteWerks dashboard. When the opportunity is retrieved from ConnectWise, the contact information along with any products are added to the QuoteWerks quote. QuoteWerks will then update the opportunity when the quote is created. At the bottom of our Settings tab here, we have our ticket defaults. When creating a new ticket, either a one-off or when winning an opportunity and creating tickets, you can default the service board, status, and service type. And when winning a ConnectWise opportunity, you can default which products on the opportunity that you would like sent over to the service tickets. So you can have products only, services only. You can actually create a separate service ticket for each service that you have on the quote, or you can send over all products and services on the QuoteWerks document. If you primarily bill via tickets rather than service orders, you will want to warn the sales rep if they are not creating a ticket when winning the opportunity, and that's done with this checkbox right here. Now that we have completed the setup on the Settings tab, we can move over to Opportunities. The Opportunities setup is divided into 3 sections. Let's start with the General tab. We can complete or win the ConnectWise sales opportunity automatically when converting the QuoteWerks document to an order, to an invoice, or never. In most cases, you'll probably use the automatic when converting to order option. If you do not want to track cost in ConnectWise, you can unselect this option. QuoteWerks can send the customer PO number in QuoteWerks to the PO number on the opportunity with this option here. QuoteWerks uses the QuoteWerks item type when mapping an item in QuoteWerks to ConnectWise. When an item type is not filled out in QuoteWerks, we will use these defaults for a default product, discount line, charge line, or formula line. When creating a new opportunity in ConnectWise, you can default the location and business unit. When creating or editing the opportunity, you have the ability to change them, however, as needed. The opportunity status defaults are located here. These pull dynamically from ConnectWise. My recommendation for the closed won status is to create a status in ConnectWise like won in QuoteWerks. This allows you to easily see the won quotes in ConnectWise to then perform the next step, like creating or preparing for purchasing or a project from the opportunity. If you have a generic won status, it will probably just get lost in one of your ConnectWise boards. The last 2 options are defaults for when winning an opportunity in ConnectWise. And we have the ability to default the checkbox for creating the sales order and also creating the agreements on that opportunity. Moving on to forecast lines. When QuoteWerks creates forecast or estimate lines on a ConnectWise opportunity, you can set what you want the description of each line to start with. When QuoteWerks creates or updates the opportunity in ConnectWise, you can default the option to create individual products in ConnectWise. For a product to be on a ConnectWise opportunity, the product must exist in the ConnectWise product database or catalog. If the option is set, QuoteWerks will create new products in ConnectWise if they do not already exist. For this reason, many ConnectWise users only want the products to be created when the quote is won in QuoteWerks. This is why we have the force creation option when converting to one. If this box is not checked, the user will still have the ability to manually elect to send the products over to ConnectWise. Likewise, if it is checked, they can manually elect not to send over the product information. If the force setting is checked, the user will not be able to uncheck to send products to ConnectWise, however, thus forcing all products and services from the QuoteWerks document to be sent over and created if need be. We will now map the ConnectWise forecast types. If you recall from earlier, the QuoteWerks item type is used to map to a number of areas in ConnectWise. If you need to create a new QuoteWerks item type, you can do so with this button. The mapping is pretty straightforward. The only area to pay attention to is with services. If you want to send services over as a product, which is the recommended ConnectWise method, you will want to map services to product. If you want services to be just a forecast line, then you'll map them to service. We have a separate video that walks you through these options. In our example, I will be mapping all items to a product forecast. In most cases, you will want to map all items on the QuoteWerks document to a product forecast in ConnectWise. For any item types that we do not map, we'll want to set a default forecast type. In my case, I'm using product. Let's move on to shipping. If you want to send shipping to ConnectWise, just check this box right here. There are some basic settings for shipping. We can send the shipping item as an other forecast with this description, or as a product with these options. When setting your shipping amount in the document, you can set the item type. When sending shipping to ConnectWise as a product, it will adhere to the product item type mappings that we are about to set up. We are now ready for the product configuration. Again, this setup is divided into 3 sections. When QuoteWerks is mapping products to a ConnectWise product ID, you can use a number of different fields. By default, we'll use the QuoteWerks manufacturer part number to map to a ConnectWise product ID. If a discount or charge line item in QuoteWerks does not have a part number, we'll use these defaults. The next set of mappings are very important, as this is the information that will be used when QuoteWerks creates products in ConnectWise. If the product already exists in ConnectWise, these settings will be retrieved from the product definition in ConnectWise. QuoteWerks does not update existing ConnectWise product definitions. Again, we'll be using the QuoteWerks item type to map to these settings. So let's go ahead and map our product types. As you can see, I have some basic item types in QuoteWerks. You may want to be more granular with your data. So for instance, you may want to have an inventory and non-inventory items. You may have laptops versus desktops. In this case, though, I've got inventory, so I want to make sure that those are mapped to hardware, for instance, in my example here. Now, anything that is not mapped, we'll use these defaults down below here. Moving on to categories and subcategories. In QuoteWerks, we'll display the ConnectWise category-subcategory mapping with the category on the left-hand side, followed by the subcategory after the slash. In this case, my category here would be hardware, and PC would be my subcategory. And again, just like product types, anything that is not mapped will be defaulted to this down below. The product class is probably one of the most important mappings, as this will determine how services are sent over to service tickets, make sure agreement items are sent over to agreements, and the whatnot. So make sure to map your service to a service product class, any of your agreement type items two agreements as well. In this case, I've got inventory, so that would be an inventory type item. So I'll go ahead and click on OK. And then just like those other ones, anything that's not mapped will use this default. Moving on to work roles, this is going to be very similar to what we had in the previous mappings. And again, not mapped, we'll use this selection. Moving on to unit of measures. Unit of measure is a simple one-to-one relationship. If for some reason you had a new unit of measure, you'd default it to this option down here. And the next option is serialized. If you have serialized items in ConnectWise, QuoteWerks can map the item type to a serialized flag. An inventory item, for instance, would be serialized yes. Moving on to bundles. QuoteWerks has groups that can come from bundles or kits, configurations, or created on the fly. ConnectWise also has bundles. You can configure how you would like normal bundles to be sent over to ConnectWise. In most cases, you will have QuoteWerks create a ConnectWise bundle. You can also send over the bundle header only with no products, or the individual products that make up that bundle with no bundle header. For QuoteWerks recurring bundles, I would suggest only the bundle header, since ConnectWise does not have these types of recurring bundles at this time. In QuoteWerks, these groups would typically be used for a HOS configuration. If the QuoteWerks field that is mapped to the ConnectWise product ID is left blank, we'll use this default. If the item does not exist in ConnectWise, QuoteWerks will create it. If you are mapping to an existing ConnectWise bundle item, the bundle item must not already have components associated with it. If the item type for the group heading line is blank, we'll use these defaults. In ConnectWise, projects group multiple tickets into phases and subphases that enhances your ability to manage a group of tasks for completion and budgeting. QuoteWerks has the ability to send the bundle to ConnectWise as a project phase. This is helpful when converting the ConnectWise opportunity to a ConnectWise project. We have a separate video that provides an overview of this functionality. Mapping a group to indicate a project phase is controlled by the item type of the group heading line in QuoteWerks. Then, for any item types that are not mapped, you'll use this default. Moving on to the product list. QuoteWerks can link to the products you have already set up in ConnectWise. This is especially useful for labor and managed service items. As you have seen so far, the mapping of the QuoteWerks item type is important when mapping back to ConnectWise. We can base the mapping from ConnectWise to a QuoteWerks item type on either the product types or categories and subcategories in ConnectWise. We'll use a reverse mapping based on the settings we have made on the Products Mappings tab. If no mapping is found, we'll use this item type. As of ConnectWise 2017.5, ConnectWise does not have an API to determine if an item in ConnectWise is recurring. This checkbox enables you to use the unit of measure to determine the item's recurring properties. If the unit of measure is month or monthly in ConnectWise, the item will be monthly recurring in QuoteWerks. We have created a separate video that highlights this functionality. The last thing we will need to do is actually link the ConnectWise product source. So now let's go ahead and set up the product source. But first, let's take a look at our current product list. And as you'll see, we currently only have Eatalyze and our products. So let's go ahead and add ConnectWise. So we'll just go to the Products menu, go to Setup Product Sources, click on New, select ConnectWise in our list, and click on Next. And then we can add additional fields to our mappings here. I'm just going to leave the defaults, leave the name as ConnectWise here. If we wanted to change the columns, we could do that. I'm just going to leave the defaults again just for right now. And from here, we can go ahead and click on Finish and Close. And now we will have our ConnectWise product list as an option to bring in our products, our services, our managed services. So for instance, I can bring in managed. In this case, I've got a managed workstation. And this had a unit of measure of monthly. So it's going to actually come in as recurring on my quote in QuoteWerks. Thank you for taking the time to learn how to set up the QuoteWerks integration to ConnectWise. We have additional videos that show you how to actually use the integration with ConnectWise. If you have additional questions on how to set up or use the integration, please feel free to contact QuoteWerks Technical Support at 407-248-1481 or email support@quoteworks.com.